In just a second, it's going.
Thank you.
Do we just go ahead and get started?
Give me just a moment and I'll give you the key. We're good to go. In just a second, it's going.
Thank you.
Ms. Santone, we're good.
Okay. All right. So good morning and welcome to our Rising Rams parent meeting. I am the assistant principal for 6th grade, Mrs. Antone, and the purpose of today's session is to provide as much information about your child's transition to 6th grade at David T. Howard Middle School. School transition is a process that prepares our students and families in schools to develop knowledge, skills, and relationships that help our students to move from one education setting to another. And so our goal is to help our rising 6th graders form a realistic expectations of what middle school will be like, and also to help them try and to make sure that they have an inviting, supportive, and caring environment, and just making sure that they're safe. And let's be real, parents, you know that this is a big time for you as well. And so we know that your babies are moving up in the world, and this is a time of their lives that is full of unknowns. So we want you to be comfortable with this transition and know that we are here to support you. So today, we will have a welcome from our building principal. We will introduce ourselves and let you know what our roles are in terms of your support team with 6th grade. And then we'll have a review of discussion topics that involve communication, transition activities, beginning the year, once your babies get in 6th grade, also looking at opportunities and incentives, as well as having questions and answers that you may have before we adjourn. And so at this time, and we'll have some closing remarks from our building principal. And so at this time, we will start with our introductions.
Okay, thanks, Mrs. Antone. So I'm Dr. Kevin Maxwell, principal at David T. Howard. This is my 4th year as principal, and many of you may know, but just in case you don't, I was hired at Inman Middle School about 4 years ago, and so we actually moved this past year to a new building. Inman Middle School was an elementary school. For a long time, it was built as an elementary school. And so we could only hold about less than 900 students. And so for the past probably 10 or 12 years, we had definitely over 1,000 plus students. And so for the past few years, including when we were all at Inman, the 8th grade, were in portables. And so we definitely outgrew the building. And so the idea was to create a space, a middle school space for us, where every student and staff member were under one building. And it has been as you probably well know, an interesting transition because of the pandemic. But we actually basically doubled our size from Inman to David T. Howard, from about 120,000 square feet to about 230,000 square feet. We have 4 floors. Each grade level is each level is a grade level, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and we also have a level that's primarily connections classes. And so this is, and just to talk a little bit, we usually start this earlier. We start this process earlier, and I'm optimistic. I'm a relentless optimist, and we wanted to try to get in front of you face to face, and we couldn't do that. We are going back face to face in middle school for the kids that decided to, or parents who decided to have their kids go face to face on February the 16th. But that's why we've held off. And so, and we'll probably say this more than once, but this won't be the last time we talk with you. This is the first time of many times for this transition. And we know how important this transition is. And the one thing I want to end with on my welcome is that in 6th grade, everyone's new. And so there might be kids that know each other from Morningside or Hope Hill or Mary Lynn or Spark. But in 6th grade, they all come together and it's all new for them. And so I tell that to parents and I'll tell that to students because I think there's obviously some nervousness going to middle school. And then the last thing, and you'll see, you actually have seen this right away with the 6th grade assistant principal, is that we have, and you'll see throughout this presentation, is that we have people in place, we have staff in place that are just focused on 6th grade. And we have one level. So if all your 6th graders, all the 6th graders are on one level, they're not intermingle too much with 7th and 8th grade. And so it's 3 schools within a school. And we think that's appropriate, obviously. And so we do that because 6th, 7th, and 8th grade should look a little differently, at each level. And so just a couple of points that I wanted to talk about at the beginning, and we'll talk more about 6th grade, about Howard, and answer all your questions. But welcome virtually, and can't wait to meet all of you in person.
Good morning. I'm Asha Hall Washington. I am the special education lead teacher, or CELT, here at Howard Middle School. So I'm here this morning to answer any questions you may have about the Department of Special Education as you transition to 6th grade. And we will be working with the elementary CELTs to set up some one-on-one meetings with families to answer any specific questions you may have that are kind of just tailored to your individual child. So I look forward to working with you and getting to know your students better.
Hey everybody, my name is Chelsea Schultz. I am the 6th grade counselor here at Howard Middle School. Next year will be my 4th year working with 6th graders here at Howard, and I can safely say that I feel like I've very much so found my niche. I really enjoy the transition process, and I really enjoy getting to have your babies come from 5th grade to 6th grade and help them with that transition. I echo everything that Dr. Maxwell was saying earlier. We have a really strong and dynamic 6th grade team. We also have a really strong and dynamic 6th grade teaching staff. So your babies are going to be set up for success here, and I can't wait to meet them.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ann Head. I am the 6th grade Dean of Students. I am also a restorative practices coach. I'm responsible for discipline, also our social emotional learning, or SEL, and PBIS for our grade level. I work closely with our assistant principal, our counselor, and leadership team in helping to develop the whole child, as well as the academics and supporting students as best as we can. And we look forward to having you all in the fall.
I don't think Miss Allen is here yet. So Miss Poe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Tanisha Poe. The kids usually refer to me as the computer lady. I am the instructional technology specialist here. And my whole job is to make sure that the virtual part of your learning experience is as good as possible, whether you're in the building using technology as a supplement, or if you're at home using technology as your main platform. And I am so excited to meet all of your students.
Hello, my name is Kanan Perry. I am David T. Howard's registrar and records clerk. So anything that you need in regards to documentation for school records, that would be me, and of course, registration.
And good morning again. I am Ms. Antone, the 6th grade assistant principal. This is my 3rd year at Emmett/Howard, 25th year in education. And in addition to observing and monitoring classroom instruction, I do serve as the MTSS administrator, which is our multi-tiered systems of supports. That includes response to intervention, RTI, and the student support team process, SST, and 504s. And so as a sixth grade leadership team, I must say that we have some of the best support staff that you can ever have, with our counselor Schultz and Ms. Head, our Dean of Students. Together, we make a great team. And like Ms. Schultz said, we have some awesome teachers. And so we do a lot of troubleshooting around making sure the teachers are supported and making sure that you and our students are supported when students are struggling, if they're having issues academically, behaviorally, just struggles with technology, getting on to classes, whatever the case, we support, and they do it with passion. And so just know that you have a great team to work with, and we are your support team. And so now we are going to move on to a review of discussion topics. And so we'll start with our counselor to talk about communication.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Anton. All right, guys. So when it comes to communication, we try to make sure that you guys never have to guess about anything. I will say that we are pretty strong with communication. So one way that we like to communicate with parents in particular is myself, Miss Head, and Miss Anton. We run a Rising Sixth Grade Rams Remind, say that 10 times fast, Remind 101 thread. And so what that is that is going to be a place where we send you guys text message updates. We have not created yet the Rising Rams thread for your group of students, and that's just because we want to wait a little bit closer. But what we will do is we will make sure that that is communicated on our school website through your current fifth grade counselors and our fifth grade teachers. So we will make sure that we get you that information. But our Remind 101 thread is going to be a great place for us to be able to communicate with you guys. Another great place is we have our sixth grade Rams Google Classroom page. So every sixth grader right now is a member of our sixth grade Rams Google Classroom page. And that is a place for all of our sixth grade staff, Dr. Maxwell, Ms. Poe, all of us, so that we can communicate announcements to the sixth graders directly that way. That's where Dr. Maxwell posts his morning announcements. It's a great place, also a great platform for students to ask us questions. So that'll be vital as well. Email is the preferred method of communication for teachers. We do have a 48-hour response window. So everyone is pretty quick about making sure that you are responded to. Some teachers will have their own Remind thread that they prefer to use for communication, but that'll be teacher by teacher dependent. But email is generally the best way to get in contact with any of us. And worst comes to worst, always just copy a few of us and we'll make sure that we get your answers quickly. Another good way to get a hold of the leadership team, the sixth grade leadership team, is we all do have our office phone numbers, which are on our school website, and we will also post at the end of this presentation to make sure that you guys have that as well.
Oh, sorry. Hold up, let me go back. Okay. So transitioning to sixth grade, Ms. Hall Washington, do you want to talk about transitioning to sixth grade?
Sure. So transitioning into sixth grade, especially for students with IEPs, we understand can sometimes be difficult. So in order to ease this, we are looking to set up meetings with parents and students ahead of the start of school to kind of ease the worry and answer all of the questions that you all may have. We'll be setting up those meetings through the current elementary CELTs because we definitely want them to be part of the meeting to answer any questions, concerns that you all may have. We know that transitioning is hard enough normally, but especially when you're dealing with a student with a disability, there can be an added layer of stress. And we just want to ensure that this transition happens as smoothly as possible. So be looking for me to either reach out or either the CELT at your building to reach out to schedule those meetings with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Hall Washington. So next is, I know that this is a hot topic because we are in a brand new gorgeous building, building tours. So due to COVID restrictions, unfortunately, we are not able to do in-person tours, but we are working towards a virtual tour option that does not require me walking around with my flimsy phone. So we want to make sure that you are able to see the beautiful building that we have, and that the beautiful building in which your students will hopefully be there at very soon. One of our transition activities that we have done in the past. So if this is not your first rodeo and you've had a sixth grader before, I'm sure that you've heard about sixth grade boot camp. So that's something that unfortunately we weren't able to do this year, but we do hope to next year have something similar. So what boot camp is it's a time at the beginning of the school year that we have to really hone in on focus on these 4 subjects here. And these are 4 things that we notice, the soft skills that we notice our sixth graders are really develop in their sixth grade year, and that they really need support developing in their sixth grade year. So that's time management, stress management, goal setting, and study skills. Those are things that we work with the students on all year long, but during boot camp, we have specific lessons that touch on those to get them introduced to them. So keep a lookout for announcements regarding some boot camp-esque activity, but just know that we do have plans to make sure that your student does feel supported and ready coming into sixth grade.
So Mr. Perry will talk to you about the registration process.
All right, I'm back. So guys, registration over the years has been, a bit zealous. So I want to make it as easy as possible. For rising sixth graders, the required documents would only be your residency documents. So that would be your lease or mortgage, a copy of your Georgia Power Bill, which does be 30 days current, and then, of course, that affidavit. Luckily, we do not need the affidavit notarized this particular year and next year. So that's one thing off of your plate in regards to registration. Once I get those documents, you are all set. You do not need to provide your birth certificate, Social Security, or anything like that, just your residency documents. Now, with the world being the way it is right now, there are 2 ways that you can provide these documents. There's online, which is the preferred method, and then in-person drop-offs, which is by appointment. I'll give you that link a little bit later, or I'll have Miss Poe post it on YouTube for you guys to have. The online process, you simply go into your parent portal on Infinite Campus. It asks you a bunch of questions, asks you to verify or confirm your information, and then there is a section where you can upload all of those documents. Once uploaded or submitted, it sends me like a little notification. I review everything and you are all set. That's when you'll get a confirmation email from me stating, hey, I got your paperwork, you're good to go. Welcome to the Howard family. Now, if you wanted to drop it off in person, that's absolutely fine, like I said, but it is by appointment only. So you'll get that link in the text message, in the comments section. Now, the window for registration is not open just yet. So I don't suggest going to Infinite Campus and doing it now. All that would do is simply confirm your information for this year, which would go to your current elementary school. Typically that window opens at the end of April, May. It's district controlled, but typically around April, May, that's when it opens. So begin to look at Infinite Campus or reach out to me, of course, to ask is that window open for next year's registration. Outside of that, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. So now we're going to roll into our scheduling process. And this is generally where, we notice a few questions come up, understandably. So I'm going to do my best to explain our process, and certainly feel free to ask any questions that come up in the YouTube chat, and we will make sure we get to those. And if you did ask a pre-asked question on our Google form, we will also be getting to those as well. So the process for scheduling students, we really want to make sure that it is an equitable process for all of our students, meaning we do not want a concentration of students from one feeder school to be more concentrated on one team versus another. We don't want a large group of gifted students on one team where there might be a larger group of students with disabilities on another group or another team. So we want to make sure that our scheduling process is equitable in that way. So what we do is once we have a better idea of our numbers coming in, we sit down and we look at how many students are coming from our 4 feeder schools, how many students are coming from Maryland, Hope Hill, Springdale Park, Morningside. We look to see how many students are coming from private schools. We look at demographic information. We look at disabilities. We look at gifted. We look at 504. We look at all the broad spectrum of things to make sure that when we are scheduling, that there is an equal distribution of students onto each team. So with that being said, our scheduling model is at random. So we do not accept requests for certain teams. And the reason for that random scheduling model is to ensure that equity. So I know I've been talking a lot about teams. So we do currently have 4 teams. Each team has your 4 core subject teachers to it. So team 1, for instance, has Miss Edson for social studies, Miss Hurt for language arts, Mr. Ford for science, and Miss Jackson for math. So that's team 1. So we do that way so that your student has one group of teachers that you are primarily working with, so that you as a parent feel that you have like a central group of folks to communicate with. And so right now we do have 4 teams. Again, we want to make sure that the scheduling process is equitable in that way. And so that is why it is random. Sometimes some students might cross team depending on their needs, right? So if a student has an IEP, they might cross team to make sure that they have the correct services, depending on from one teacher to another. They might cross team for a multitude of reasons, but we do our best to make sure that we keep students on team as best as possible. It also really helps for when we're in the building because those classrooms are right next to each other. So students don't have to worry about getting lost all throughout the building. If they're on team 1, those 4 teachers are pretty much right next door to each other. The next question is, can my child be placed into a classroom with their friend? Short answer is no. A little bit longer of an answer is part of that random scheduling process and it being equitable. If we do for one, we must do for all. And so in that way, we want to make sure that we are being there. So with that being said, what we really encourage students to do is to have that growth mindset coming into 6th grade to make sure that they know that, hey, I'm going to be meeting a lot of new people. I'm going to be seeing a lot of new faces that I've never seen before. But it's such a great opportunity to make friends. And that's what we really try to drive home for our 6th graders is that everyone's in the same boat. This is everyone's first 6th grade year. And so in that way, we hope that eases a little bit of the nerves that come with, oh, well, my best friend's not in class with me. And I can promise you through working with 6th graders, they will come home with a new best friend after day 1 because they all find somebody to cling to. I want to quickly bring up connection. So this is another question that we get often, and this doesn't have to be the last time we talk about it, but this can just kind of be the start of the conversation. So for 6th grade, you kind of have 3 options, if you will. 6th graders can elect to take a year-long elective. Our 3 year-longs that they can choose from are band, course, and orchestra. We do ask though, if students do register for a year long, that they do understand they are committing to a year-long course. And we try not to move students out of those year-long courses prior to the end of the year. So your 3 options that you kind of have are, and we are also on a quarter rotating system for our connections classes. So every 9 weeks. So your first option is you could take 2 year-longs. So let's say that you want to take course and you want to take band. Cool. You are taking course and band all year long. Boom. Your second option, I want to take a year-long and then the rest I want to be our random rotation of connections. So let's say you want to take course and then the random rotations. Cool. So you'll take course year-long. But then you will have 4 randomly rotating connections courses. And again, the need for the randomness is to ensure equity, because if we have a large group of students requesting one certain class versus another, we want to make sure that in 6th grade in particular, our students have the opportunity to be exposed to as many different things as possible, so that way going through 7th and 8th, they can hopefully tailor their interests a little bit more. So then your last option, option 3, is full random rotation. So that would mean that your student would have 8 different randomly rotating connections courses. And I say 8 because they take 2 connections courses per quarter. We have 4 quarters. So some examples of our random rotation connections classes: PE, JLC, study skills. This year, we're very lucky that we have 3 different languages that we're offering our 6th graders: French, Latin, and Spanish. I will mention that our languages at the 6th grade level are just meant to be exploratory and introductory. They're not meant to be prerequisites to take a language in 7th grade. So what else? We have dance this year, which the kids are adoring. It's a dance and film class. We have, and anyone feel free to pop in, because I'm art.
Yeah, so we do have fine arts, like you said, band, chorus, and orchestra, dance, art. We have the world languages, as you said, Spanish, French, and Latin, computer technology exploration, leadership and career awareness. We also have connections, reading and math, science skills, and so forth.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Antone. I knew I was going to blank. So that is kind of a quick overview. Again, I know that there are more specific questions related to things like gifted status. If a student has an IEP, if a student qualifies for our accelerated math program, so certainly know that this just is the start of the conversation, and we are here to answer any and all questions. But hopefully you start to hear it enough that you're like, all right, this is making sense. So generally what we do is we send out a connections request form to your elementary school counselor, who will then send that to your student's teacher for you to fill out. We generally send that out right before spring break, and we give you a few week long window to fill that out. And then that is how we schedule connections from there. So again, you'll have 3 options when you are sent that form. It'll be, do you want no year longs, so random rotation, 1 year long, or 2 year longs? And I think that's it, unless Ms. Antone has anything that she'd like to add.
I think for the most part, you covered it, Ms. Schultz, but I will say that currently we are at phase 1 of the scheduling process for next year. So it could be some slight changes with our connection schedule, but this is what we've done for the last couple of years. And everything that we are sharing today is based on a traditional setting. If we begin the year virtual or hybrid, it could look a bit different, but we are planning for a traditional opening. But we know we're not exactly sure what we'll have next year, but I know Dr. Maxwell will talk to you a little bit more about that towards the end of our presentation as well. So thank you, Ms. Schultz. And it's Ms. Allen here. If you will, if you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Gifted.
Hi guys, how are you? Actually, I'm gonna take off the virtual background. I've got this great hair, guys, and it just like it blends in. So hi, my name is Sarita Allen. I am the assistant principal also of curriculum and instruction. And so I do a lot of course placement and working with teachers on quality of instruction and building their professional practice. So that's some of the things that I do. All right, so the very first question on here that I want to take time to answer is, how many gifted classes will my child have? If your child has qualified for the gifted tag, they will be able to have 2 core gifted courses out of the 4 core gifted courses. Our gifted courses are assigned randomly based off of the team placement. An example could be if your child is on team 1 and the 2 teachers who are providing gifted offerings is the ELA teacher and the science teacher, Then on team one, your child will receive have a gifted ELA and a gifted science, and then they would have math and social studies. But if they were on team two and the two teachers happen to be ELA and social studies, right? So then they would find those two serves. So again, it is just two gifted courses if they have the gifted tag, given that they have qualified for the gifted tag. The next question is, how are gifted classes selected? So I actually did answer how they are selected. It is a random placement based off of team. What goes along with gifted placement is accelerated math. And I know a lot of you may be saying or thinking right now, my child is in advanced or gifted, they use different languages in the elementary school, 5th grade math. We do want you to know that that course itself that they are taking at the elementary school doesn't have any bearing. It is not a prerequisite to qualify for our accelerated 6th grade math here at Howard. Students may be, and so parents, you may be excited to know that your kid just may be in the grade level math, 5th grade math, that student has the exact same chance, and we will apply the exact same criteria for that student to have an opportunity to qualify for the accelerated 6th grade math. The qualifications in the past, there's a 4-point criterion. One is to have a grade of 90 or higher in your 5th grade math. The second one is to have, I want to say, it used to be an 820 on the star. However, I'm not sure if they've changed that to the percentile rank and made it 90 percentile rank. So it was an 820, but it might be a 90% percentile rank. If they are obviously in the feeder school, there is a mathematical disposition rubric. It is not a recommendation form. The teacher does not say yes or no. That is nowhere on the form. It is a rubric that rates the student's mathematical disposition based off of the mathematical standards. So there are some mathematical practices standards, and they rate them off of that. And the last thing, which, we are not sure if we'll go forward, but is the Georgia milestones. The students must score distinguished on the Georgia milestones if that goes forward. It is important to know for the criteria that they have to actually meet all 4 of the criteria. And so if the student meets 3, they have not met the criteria to be placed in the accelerated math class. I think that one of the things that happened this year, given the pandemic and the crisis, and that there was not a Georgia milestones, was the fact that the district provided an assessment that was equivalent to the Georgia milestones. It assessed over the 5th grade math skills and standards, and the students as well had to receive a distinguished rating on that assessment. And so there still was a 4-point criterion for the students to be placed into the accelerated math class. Now, I started the conversation talking about gifted math, and so I want to tell you how that merges together. Accelerated math is considered one of the gifted courses. And so if your child is on the team 1, where the offerings were ELA and science initially, and then your child qualifies for accelerated math, at that time, again, by randomness, one part not random, right? Through qualification, they will be placed in an accelerated math course, but then they would have the gifted ELA or the gifted science. So again, it would be accelerated math, gifted ELA. Could be what your child has as gifted offerings, or it would be gifted accelerated math, gifted science. That could be another option. So again, it still maxes at the 2. If they get the accelerated math, that is one of their gifted courses. I would also add on that your child does not have to be gifted to qualify for accelerated math. So I do want to make that point there. Your child can just qualify for accelerated math, and they will be in the accelerated math course for that qualification. And based off of the questions there, I believe I've answered them all. Thanks, guys.
Miss Allen, we did have one question that said, how can students take the equivalent assessment?
Can you repeat, please?
The question said, how can students take the equivalent assessment?
Oh, how? So it happens this year, and that's really what we're going off of what they did this year. This year, it happened about the second week of school this year, just because they did not know how it was going to happen. I think, I've worked with the math coordinator enough that I think her preference would have been, had we known that the milestones was canceled and that the virtual school was up and running like it is now, that it would actually occur at the end of the current school year. So we have all of that data and can place the students appropriately. So again, that is, I'm always transparent, that is a speculation, but I speculate that if we get notice that there will not be a Georgia Milestones, that there will be, again, that district provided assessment. I do believe that would happen at the end of this year, given that virtual school has already been up and running.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. And Ms. Poe, will you talk to us about devices, as we are a one-to-one school?
Yes, we are so blessed to be a one-to-one school. And the way that works, the district will send brand new devices, hopefully, over to the school, and we will distribute. Every single student gets a device unless for some reason their parents opt out. I usually suggest that parents don't opt out because the students would use that APS device on campus, and personal devices don't support some of our testing and some of those other items. So your student would get it will be a Lenovo. Every student will get the same one. We're waiting for them all to be shipped now, so your students will get a brand new one. If you have a problem with your device, I always tell people that I don't fix it, but I find ways for it to get fixed. So if your student has issues with their device, usually they come to me. Most of the time it can be fixed by powering it off and powering it back on. But if that doesn't fix it, then I send it over to our IT staff to make sure that they get it fixed. In addition to providing your student with the actual hardware, I'm also tasked with making sure that your students are safe online. So we talk about digital citizenship. I monitor what's going on online. If there are issues, if we find sites that need to be blocked, I help teachers come up with lessons to make sure that it's completely integrated. Right now, our students are in front of the computers a lot. There's a lot of screen time right now because of the pandemic. But when your students come into classrooms, I want you to understand that next year, if we're back to normal, quote, it will be a mix. Your students will come in, some days they'll be on their devices in math class for a while, and the next day in math class, they might not be on the device at all. They might be on the device in social studies. So it's not that, I never want parents to think that, your child's teacher is relying solely on the computer to teach your student. Again, I jokingly say that the laptops are just fancy pencils that help as a resource. But I will take care of and make sure that all students are given an opportunity to get the device, and that the devices they get are in good working order. And that's it for devices.
Thank you, Ms. Poe. And so now we will move to the next slide and look at, now I'm in 6th grade, now what? And so we'll look at our virtual learning versus face-to-face learning. Dr. Maxwell, would you like to share with that?
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about that. And I don't have a crystal ball, obviously, but we do know that we moved our dates back from at least 3 through 5 to February the 8th, and 6 through 12 to February the 16th. And then we're going to continue to look at, is that going to be the date? What is the pandemic? What is it like? Are there vaccinations coming? I think Dr. Herring, along with many other superintendents, are talking to the Georgia DOE about a rollout on vaccination. So where are we going to be? I think it's even more important for all of you, when Ms. Schultz talked about that communication, is to be in communication know that we're going to give out different information as we see and as we get into 2021-22 school year. We hope that more kids and that they're going to show up in the spring, but we're also hoping that all kids will be back in the fall, but it may or may not happen. I very well think that at the very least, there will still be some flexibility. I would hope, and again, optimistic, that most of our students will be back, but some students may, and some families may think that virtual learning really worked well for them, or they might be a little bit nervous about coming back even in the fall. And so what we're going to be looking at, and I don't have those, I can't make those decisions, but it's just starting to hear and think, is to understand that there is that flexibility. I know that last year we wanted to take the 6th grade, and we even started working on summer tours and kind of summer boot camp, and it did not happen. But if we have to do virtual tours for the rising 6th grade, we still might in the summer, because 30% of our kids are coming back in February, March. So there will still be many students who have not been in this building. And so, be on the lookout to see if there's summer tours or different programs as we try to get everyone, all students, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade acclimated to the building. And it's definitely a time where we have learned a lot. And obviously we all want to get back to school and everyone to be safe, but we have learned so much. We know that we've had a lot more parents who were in different kind of different meetings for us, different parent meetings, whether it's an IEP meeting or a 504 meeting. I've heard from different staff members that it's the most that they've ever had, and it's done virtually. And I just give that example because some of those ideas and concepts and activities that we have learned, we are going to try to replicate some of those because we feel like at times there has been better communication with parents or with the community in different ways. And so just make sure that we are been building this airplane in the sky since March, and that it's going to continue to curve at different times, and just to be in that communication, and again, just trying to, just do the very best that we can, and the very best that can make that transition for 6th graders as easy as possible as they go into middle school. And so just be on the lookout for those type of communication, the communication and remind, and in the website. I think there was even a question about our newsletter. We have a great PTO newsletter, and just make sure that you're on all of those communication platforms.
And we'll make sure too that we have some sort of one pager for you guys regarding communication, just so that you aren't feeling scrambled, like what's the code for this, and how do I sign up for that, and how do I get the PTO blast. We'll make sure that that's communicated to you guys. So next on the list is what's a typical day like for 6th graders? And while typical is not a word that we've been using recently with this virtual learning platform, I can speak to what a typical day did look like for our 6th graders and what we hope to return to. And then I will speak to what a typical day looks like virtually for them as well. So in person, we do have their 4 core class, or not in person, this is across the board. They have their 4 core classes, they have advisory, they have their 2 connections classes. So advisory and homeroom, you might hear interchangeably. We're also doing this really fantastic thing called P&B this year, Proficiency and Beyond. And I'll let Ms. Antone speak to that a little bit more, but during P&B happens during that advisory time block. During advisory, we also are touching on our SEL lessons, so our social and emotional learning lessons. So that advisory time block is really paramount to making sure that our students are getting their interventions, their extensions, and their SEL learnings. So we have our students start their day at 9:05. Right now, the way that our virtual learning schedule looks is they have there are 4 core classes: red, green, blue, yellow. So you won't hear us really referring to things period 1, period 2. It's your red class, your green class, your blue class, your yellow class. And those are your 4 core classes. So those are broken up throughout the day between brain breaks and lunch and stuff like that. And then they'll have their 2 connections classes. So right now, our 6th graders virtually are doing an AA-BB model. So on Monday and Tuesday, they'll take their first connections class. And on Tuesday and Thursday, or I'm sorry, Wednesday's asynchronous. So Thursday and Friday, they'll take their second connections class. And connection classes are a grade, and they are on the student's transcript. So I do think that's important to mention. And so, you know, the students will oscillate and transition between those 4 core classes, their advisory class, and their 2 connections classes. So with that being said, your student's advisory teacher is a really great resource. So if you ever are unsure about anything, if you have questions, if you're not sure where to go or how to navigate a situation, your student's advisory teacher is always a great first resource. Myself, Ms. Head, Ms. Anton, we're all here to support you as well. But oftentimes the advisory teacher can get that question answered for you ASAP. And then they generally teach your students, so they have a relationship with them as well. So, you know, while we're in the building, we have this thing called a snake schedule that you've probably heard about. I'm not going to dive too much into the snake schedule right now, just because I don't want to overwhelm you all with that, if, you know, because now we're virtual. But once we have a better idea about when we're returning, we'll certainly touch on that snake schedule, because it's something that we've seen be really impactful for our students in terms of retention and what they learn. So you'll hear advisory a lot, you'll hear P&B a lot, you'll hear red, green, blue, yellow class, connections A, connections B. But again, this is not going to be the last time you hear about all of these things. And I believe Miss Antone had stepped away real fast. So Miss Head, do you mind touching on attendance and discipline procedures until Miss Antone gets back?
So with attendance, our school day begins at 9:05 in the morning and it ends at 5 in the afternoon. We do expect that our students will be on time to class each day throughout the day. And it's so important for our students to be on time, because if they're late or tardy, it's possible that they may miss some valuable information. So we do press upon them the expectation of being on time and present every day. If a student is going to be absent, we do ask that parents send the excuse upon their return. And also, if you know that your child will have an early dismissal, if you'll provide that prior to coming to pick your child up from school. It's very important. So the main office has time to notify teachers that the child will be absent and to enter the information into the system. And with discipline, we do follow the APS Code of Conduct. And it's a progressive discipline policy, but our code of conduct within Atlanta Public Schools is heavily embedded with restorative practices. So you're probably thinking, what are restorative practices? Well, restorative practices, they seek to repair relationships that could have been harmed or that have been harmed or damaged. And it's through being able to bring people together or our children together and have them talk about the situation. What happened? What were you thinking? How can we make this better? So it allows them to learn the necessary skills for conflict resolution. And we teach those skills to our students on a regular basis.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Head. And in terms of orientations and town hall meetings, it is very important that we acclimate all of our students at the beginning of the school year, and especially our sixth graders who are new to the middle school environment. Therefore, at the beginning of the year, we always do an orientation to explain everything, processes and procedures, how we will operate as a grade level and as a school. We also share school-wide and grade level expectations, opportunities that they may have, incentives, so that everyone is clear on what they have available in all of these topics. And also we make sure they understand what supports, most importantly, they have in place for them as they transition into their sixth grade year. Also, throughout the year, specifically each quarter, we host town halls with our students to continuously motivate them and push them towards their goals, just keeping them aware of deadlines, dates, things that are important to the success of them as sixth graders. And they get those reminders and expectations during those times and those town halls. In terms of academics and instruction, we do expect for all of our students to give 100% of their effort in all content areas, including connections. As Ms. Schultz mentioned earlier, they do get a grade in all connections classes, which could be different from elementary, but it is our belief at Howard that all students can learn at high levels, and that all staff in our building will work collaboratively and take a collective responsibility for the success of our students. And one way that we do this, one major way we do this, is through our advisory block that we call P&B. It's not peanut butter and jelly time, but it's proficiency and beyond. So you'll probably hear that a lot. And we do get the question sometimes, well, we don't get a grade for advisory. Do we have to attend? Yes. So just think of it, virtually, they do have to attend. If we're in the building, you do have to report to advisory, which used to be, you're my age, it may have been home, okay? But during this time, advisory is normally once a week, and we do things like social emotional activities to frequently take the temperature of our sixth graders to determine how are they doing. And if there are issues, they have supports in place so that we can address those. We also look at PBIS activities during that time, which stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, where we celebrate students. And if we see where kids need assistance or interventions, we provide that as well. And as I mentioned with this P&B time, it stands for Proficiency and Beyond. And those proficiency groups we have during that advisory time, 3 to 4 days a week, where we work with students who need additional time to demonstrate mastery on the essential standards that they get in all of their classrooms. These students also receive what we call informal or formal interventions. For example, if a student has a formal intervention, they may have a tier 2 or a tier 3 plan in the RTI or SST process. And so we try to make sure during that time that they get those necessary interventions in order to be successful. Our beyond groups of P&B are students who have demonstrated mastery on the essential grade level standards, and they receive extension lessons. And these lessons range from lessons in social studies, where like this year, they may have talked about electoral college, things that are happening in the real world and making sure they have an understanding, science labs, and also college and career lessons, as we are a college and career cluster. We do give a universal screener at the beginning, middle, and end of the year to determine growth. We use the STAR reading and STAR math, which is norm reference. And it allows us our students to know how they compare against students who took that assessment at around the same time frame. And it gives them a percentile rank so they can see how they compare to others around the nation. So it is important that our students are in advisory and P&B every day. Thank you. And so at this time, we will move on to opportunities and incentives. where we'll talk about athletics, clubs, and organizations, all the way to other activities that kids can be a part of.
Thank you, Miss Antone. All right, so my little section is going to be short because unfortunately due to COVID, we are not able to have any athletics at this moment. Of course, as things change, we are going to be communicating with you all. I advise having your student, if your student is in the 6th grade Google Classroom, all of our virtual offerings for clubs and organizations will be posted there so that students know when things are meeting, Zoom links where they can go, who they need to contact, all that sort of stuff. So we have had a few virtual offerings for clubs and organizations. I know that Miss Hurt has still been doing her reading bowl. I know that we're doing a virtual kind of like newsletter, a young poets club. There's still things that we can have our students engaged in virtually. But again, that 6th grade Google Classroom is going to be paramount to make sure that our 6th graders have that information. And it's really cool that our 6th graders have, generally when we're in regular session, and I know Dr. Maxwell will say this all the time, we have to tell the kids to only pick a few things because they'll find themselves wanting to do this sport and 4 clubs and this activity and that dance. And that's the really cool thing about middle school is that they have an opportunity to try a bunch of new things. So, as we get more information around reopening, we will have more information around athletics, clubs, and organizations. But in terms of our virtual offerings, that will all be posted in your 6th grade Google Classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. Rambassadors, what is that? So at Howard, we have a student leadership team, which is an extension of our school PBIS team, who serve as the voice of their grade level. They meet with 6th grade leadership at least once a month. They get feedback from their peers in terms of what are some of the types of things they like to do as celebrations. We, try to at least focus on one community service project, a year. And it's just a great time for them to begin developing those leadership skills. And, they've had to stand before their advisory classes and have a conversation, lead a conversation, and generate ideas. And so we really love working with those ambassadors. And in terms of student of the month, we like to recognize our students for their accomplishments in 6th grade, as this is a major year for them. And we want them to know, along the way, how well they're doing. And, we look at criteria in terms of grades, improvements, engagement, all of the above to make sure they know that they're doing a good job. And thank you.
Honor roll celebrations. So we like to celebrate our students. We try to celebrate milestones that they have, whether they're small or large. And we do have AB honor roll celebrations as well as the principal's list, which is all A's. We look at Rising Rams, students who are making a difference, who are rising to the occasion of our expectations. And we do this normally at the end of the first semester and then throughout the school year. So every 4.5 weeks, the 4.5 week mark, the quarter marks. And we enjoy having our pop-up honor roll celebrations as well. And what do I mean by pop-up honor roll celebrations? We're talking about in the hallways, in the cafeteria during lunch, where we present our honor roll students with some of their favorite snacks. All they have to do is come and show us where I met the expectation. This is what I did, and we celebrate them. So we do enjoy celebrating all of the milestones of our students.
Okay, and so also we do data talks, and this is an opportunity for us to talk with our students 2 to 3 times a year, where we allow students to reflect on their status as a student, where we look at their academic standing, attendance, assessments, and just all of the above. And this, they answer goal setting questions, and they actually do a one-on-one with the staff member 2 to 3 times a year where they get to talk through their reflections and set goals for themselves and monitor those goals. And so that's a part of our data talk. And I think that's a great way to keep our sixth graders on track and just to have that self-awareness of, hey, I'm doing a great job, or hey, I need to work on this area. Let me see what we can do. And they have a person that's there for them to support them in that effort. And then also, Dr. Maxwell, if you can just talk about the morning news and how we get students to participate and any other district activities or competitions.
Yeah, so I do a morning announcements every morning other than asynchronous days now. So right now it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. They last a couple minutes. I talk about what's going on. A lot of times it's because things are changing with dates, making sure that they know when their connections classes are, if they're going to P&B, like Ms. Schultz talked about P&B, Proficiency and Beyond, or advisory. And so just make sure that they start their day, and also some information for our families. And so those are on our site. And so, I mean, you could start, listening to some of those right now. And we will have actually students say the Rams motto, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And so they go on to actually flip grid, and teachers do that. We have had teachers, Ms. Schultz has done it. And but many of our students, and they definitely have some fun with that. And so we want them to participate. We want them to participate even more once we get into session, that they're going to start driving the morning announcements. Ms. Poe was working on that actually before we went virtually. And so anyway, so yeah, look for those morning announcements every morning. I just want to talk a little bit about athletics clubs and organizations. And Ms. Schultz hit on this, but I mean, there's all kinds of data. Like if I say anything, get involved, because if you get involved, then there is more of a chance that your child will get better grades, that they will less likely to have any type of discipline, because in middle school, well, in elementary, you have one teacher, maybe two teachers, and you go to a connections class. And in middle school, you have 6 or 7 teachers. And so, which is great. You start learning about high school and maneuvering between teachers. And, every teacher has a little bit way. Some teachers are a little bit tougher with maybe their classroom managements, and some are more lax. And some will spoon feed the information academically. Others will want you to be more independent. So you kind of work through all of that. But those deep relationships are a little bit tougher because it's 60 minutes a period. But once you get into like a club that you really enjoy, a reading club or robotics, then you'll meet friends that you'll meet people, you'll meet kids, students that you never knew that had the same passion as you. And then also a teacher or a staff member who has that passion. And so that connection sometimes is stronger, and that bond is stronger than maybe even a teacher. And so that's something I just wanted to bring up from a club and organization. We do have district activities and competitions, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing any, but I think I feel like on this bulleted point where, we have a reading bowl team and we just won a competition and we go on. We have an academic bowl that many times we win. We definitely win and get enough points that we go to some type of national event. We have robotics that's a district and statewide that we've won competitions. So some of our clubs and organizations that we have kind of can go into, depending on how well they do in these metro or city competitions, that they can go on. A debate club that sometimes that we go to a state debate competition. And I don't know if I'm missing anything from these district activities or competitions.
Thank you, Dr. Maxwell. And now we will have any questions or try to entertain any additional questions that you have. And then we'll have some closing remarks. So do we have any additional questions on the chat that we need to address?
So, Ms. Antone, I'm looking at all of our pre-asked questions that parents sent in on the form. I believe that we've touched on the majority of them, but the one that I don't think we've touched on yet was 504s and IEPs. So 504s, IEPs, and then also you'll hear about tier 2 and tier 3 plans. So Ms. Antone spoke to the MTSS process. So I am your 6th grade counselor. I am also your 6th grade contact if your student has a tier 2 or tier 3 plan. So that would mean your student is in the RTI, so response to intervention, or SST, student support team process. And Ms. Head is our 504 contact for 6th grade. So I'll let her touch on the 504 side of things. But Ms. Hall Washington shared with earlier is that she will be having her one-on-ones with you. So she'll make sure that you guys are completely set up for success and know and feel confident about your student coming into 6th grade. For me, on the side of scheduling, we make sure that your student, if your student has an IEP, they're scheduled into the appropriate courses that coincide with their IEP to make sure that they're getting their appropriate services. So I'll just quickly pass it over to Ms. Head to touch on 504s.
Hi. So with 504s, how are they implemented across multiple teachers? What we do is prior to the school year beginning, we do distribute the accommodations to all of the teachers. And we also explain any very important aspects of the accommodations to teachers and allow them to ask questions so that they have a pretty good insight into how our students function best. We also keep in touch with our parents on a regular basis. So we have the line of communication that's always open, and information is regularly shared between our teachers and our parents. We also, we meet as necessary. Yes, there is the annual review, but if we need to meet more often to discuss our students, that's what we do for whatever is best for the success of our students. And as different if an accommodation is not necessarily working for the student in the environment, then we come back to the table and we discuss those things. And also, you will find parents that most of the time, some of the accommodations that are provided for students are best practices that our teachers are already implementing across the board. So you will find a great deal of success with the implementation of 504 accommodations.
Thank you, Ms. Head. Do we have any additional questions in the chat or any additional questions, Ms. Schultz, that was sent?
No, none that I don't think that we have not already touched on. Someone did ask about foreign language. The 5th grade class did not have any foreign language curriculum. What is the expectation of foreign language knowledge for the incoming 6th grade class? There is not any expectation of knowledge of foreign language at the 6th grade level. So like we were sharing, if your student elects to participate in any of our random rotations, there is a high likelihood that they will be scheduled at least one of our 3 foreign language classes. And again, at the 6th grade level, they are just meant to be exploratory and they are not prerequisites to taking them in 7th grade. So currently we do offer Latin and Spanish at the year-long or 2-year-long level at 7th and 8th grade. So what that means is for your rising 7th grader, when they're filling out their connections form, they can elect to take Spanish or Latin. It'll be a 2-year commitment, and they will go into 9th grade with a language credit, a foreign language credit. However, they do not need to take Spanish or Latin in 6th grade to be prepared to take it in 7th grade. Again, in 6th grade, it's all exploratory and introductory.
And so I believe is French, I believe French is also, Ms. Schultz, the 7th and 8th grade.
I thought French was just quarter long, but I wouldn't speak with Ms. Martin, but I've been wrong before. So
I mean, I think that's just for this year, but I think
okay.
It's because it's the first year of French. So I think next year it will align with Latin and Spanish.
Even better, so more options for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no other additional questions, as we close out, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Maxwell, I would just like to say, parents, the goal of middle school is to prepare our students for high school. So please know that this is a scary time for you, your students, but you do have a group of caring and nurturing individuals as a support team. And at the same time, we do have to create that balance because we have to make sure that our kids transition into middle school and that they start learning how to advocate for themselves. But do know that we are here to motivate, inspire, and to educate through the lens of equity. And we are excited to have the opportunity to meet our Rising Rams in the spring, fall. We can't wait. And so thank you for joining us today. Hopefully we were able to answer all of your questions in its entirety. And I am going to turn it over to Dr. Maxwell, our building principal. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mrs. Antone. And I'm just going to, I'll segue because I think one question that I see that I think was answered, but just to talk about how sixth grade to eighth grade is something that goes by very quickly. And by the time you're in eighth grade, actually you'll be, as a parent or as that student, discussing credits. And it's a credit game. Like when you become a freshman, you don't become a sophomore unless you get a certain amount of credits. And so in seventh grade, actually, when Ms. Schultz talked about that foreign language, that 2 year, at the end of the 2 years, your child will get a credit. And then they'll go and they'll tell the counselor in high school, oh, I've already taken French 1. I've taken Latin 1. Now I need to take Latin 2. And so that goes quickly, like goes from this elementary, that thinking, and it's just about this subject, but there's not any credits that are mirrored or goes to that course, to all of a sudden there are credits. Miss Allen talked about math and talked about accelerated math. Well, in eighth grade, you'll get a math credit. You'll get an Algebra 1 credit, and you'll have to take a EOC all of a sudden since third grade to seventh grade. It's definitely called an EOG, end of grade, but for some students in accelerated math, they'll take an end of course where they have to take that. It's going to be part of their grade. And so that's why we want the culture, how we conduct ourselves in each grade level to be a little bit different. We'll have high school physical science for some students. And just like Miss Allen said that there was a criteria for accelerated math, there might be a high school physical science where there'll be an end of course assessment, and that it will be for a credit. And so it goes by, like I said, very fast. And so with that, I do want to say, and I say that, I think I say this to parents every year, is sometimes I hear from advice from older parents to new middle school parents is they say, just get through middle school. Just get through middle school. It's a tough time. And as a staff, we don't like to hear that. We don't like to hear like, oh, let's just get through, because there are so many wonderful clubs, organizations, teachers who are here that know middle school, that understand that there are kids are in that age where sometimes they'll cry 1 minute and be upset another minute and then be happy the next class. And so we know that, we understand that. And to me, what I've always said is middle school is a launch pad. I mean, it gets you on the launch pad for college, career, and life. And that is the part of the mission of APS, is to get our students ready for college, career, and life. Now, I didn't say anything about high school. High school's definitely a part of it, but it gets you on the launch pad to high school, to college, to a career, and to life. You might be a student, your son or daughter might be a student who kind of gets B's, maybe B's and C's, and then all of a sudden they take robotics in seventh grade and they're passionate about it, and they know, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. I want to work with computers. Well, you need to do better in math. You need to be stronger in math, and that gets them passionate and gets them understanding like, this is what I want to do, and take those courses in high school and then take those courses in college. And so that's what middle school is about. It's that transition between elementary and high school. We understand it. Also, I want to talk about what we believe in is equity. I mean, that's a big part. We moved to David T. Howard Middle School, and we make sure not that everyone that everyone is getting what they need. And so we'll look at making sure that, do we have, enough of the same gender, boys and girls, in the same, in club organizations or in same classes. We'll look at ethnicity and to make sure that we are not leaving anyone behind. And so what I'll end with is what our students actually end with, and it was created by our staff and students, is our RAMS motto. And so we have an acronym, obviously RAMS, R-A-M-S, rising to the challenge, always doing our best, making a difference, striving for success. RAMS rise up, every student, every classroom, every day. And that's what we will be doing for your student, is every classroom, every student, every classroom, every day for their 6th, 7th, and 8th grade year. And we just can't wait to be here, to be at David T. Howard in person with everyone else. And like I said, we can't wait to meet parents and students, meet all of you in person. Thank you for watching.
And just one more quick little blurb. We wanted to double check to let you guys know that this is just our AM session, but we will have a PM session today at 4:30. We're going to be going over the same information. So if you do not have to go to the PM session, we just wanted to give parents an option that best fit their schedule. So if you do want to come to the PM session and if there's more questions that need to be asked or anything like that, it'll be the same information, but just another setting for parents to ask questions. But that was all I had.
Ms. Schultz, and this is recorded. So, I mean, if they miss this session or the afternoon session, then are we recording the PM session to put on the link? I can't remember.
We can talk with Ms. Poe about what we think might be the best idea.
Oh, yeah, Ms. Poe.
With that. But we'll make sure that all of these questions that you guys asked, again, will be reiterated to you guys multiple times. So this isn't the only time that you get this.
Okay.